Yeah. What's happening? You Can't Play Boxing Podcast, episode 63. What's going on, family? It's been a couple weeks, so glad to be back with y'all for sure. Before we get back into the episode and get the swing of things, I want to get some of the house cleaning out the way. So number one, if you're listening to us, you can check us out on any sort of podcast platform. You got your Apple Podcast, you got your Google Podcast, you got your Stitcher, you got your Spotify, of course. So subscribe to us, rate the podcast. We appreciate all the support. Number two, check out our social media. That's Instagram at You Can't Play Boxing. That's UCANTPLAYBOXING. Excuse me for that. And also check us out on our website, which is youcan'tplayboxingpodcast.com. You can find all the podcasts, the archives, and everything similar to YouTube. On our YouTube, subscribe to us. You Can't Play Boxing. So we up on YouTube. And on YouTube, we got some special like videos I did like last month too. So check those out. But to no further ado, let's get into the episode. So right now, bro, like we into the NBA playoffs. In the NBA playoff time, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't just speak about boxing. It's real interesting, you know. Got a lot of good teams that's in the mix right now. You got Milwaukee Bucks, the Celtics, you got the Warriors, you got the Mavericks, you got the Suns. A lot of good teams still in there. And it's real intense basketball. I'm a big basketball fan myself too. And, you know, it's real interesting. Some of the semifinal conference games just kind of kicked off in the last like day or so. So real interesting series. You know, you got the Bucks and the Celtics. That's going to be a good series. The Bucks won game one, but I think that series is going to be real awesome. Warriors and the Grizzlies going to be good too. Mavericks and the Suns I expect to be good. And also the final one, the Heat and the 76ers. A lot of injuries in that series, so I'm not sure how that's going to go. But NBA playoff time, bro, like I'm always looking forward to it. I would say really, if I had to like wager right now, I would put Milwaukee Bucks as number one as far as who I think is going to win the NBA title. So the Celtics probably my number two team. The Warriors and somebody here in the Bay, they're my number three team. And I would say the Mavericks is like a dark horse team that can get hot. They got Luka. I mean, he a top 10 player for sure. So all you need to do is get hot in the playoffs. You never know how that shit goes. So those are my top four teams to win the championship in the NBA. Because on You Can't Play Boxing, even though we're a boxing podcast, we don't just talk about boxing all the time. And so we talk about other sports and other bullshit too. But without further ado, we do have a lot of boxing to talk about since the last time I talked to y'all. We had the Errol Spence versus Yordenis Ugas fight. We got the Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte fight. And of course, just recently, last night, we had the Oscar Valdez versus Shakur Stevenson fight. So starting off with Errol Spence versus Ugas. You know, it's been about a couple weeks since that fight happened. Number one, Errol Spence put on a great performance in Cowboy Stadium. I think they said he had like 40,000 people in the stadium. Great crowd. I think maybe some people said that the live gate was like $5 million, which is good. You know what I'm saying? So speaking about the fight, unless you've been living under a cage or living under a cave or a rock. You know what I'm saying? Of course, Errol Spence won that fight. He was the favorite. Won it by TKO in the 9th round. Yeah, 9th round. Broke Yordenis Ugas' eye socket, his orbital. You know what I'm saying? And I always tell people, bro, I've been in the ring before. I've never had my eye socket broke. But I can just imagine trying to fight with a broken eye socket. From anybody that I've heard talk about it, they said it's kind of like if your face is a paper bag and somebody can just keep punching it because you have no support in your eye. So I've heard, and when you describe it like that, I'm like, damn, how do you fight like that? So number one, for Yordenis Ugas to have suffered that broken eye socket, and when I first saw it, I saw how he reacted to that uppercut. I was like, yeah, he probably broke his eye socket right there, because Ugas is a world-class fighter. And a world-class fighter, you know what I'm saying, they get hit all the time. So a regular uppercut is not going to cause him to put both hands over his eye, in the middle of the fight. That was just a reaction he couldn't even help. But for Ugas to get his eye socket broken in the 6th round, and then in the subsequent rounds, Errol Spence wasn't taking it easy. Errol Spence was like tagging him like 30 times, like 30 punches landed per round almost. And for Ugas to not only not quit, he didn't even take a knee or have a knockdown in that fight against one of the hardest hitting punchers in boxing with one eye. So for anybody that doubts the heart of Ugas, that's all you got to know. One of the top 5 pound for pound fighters, one of the hardest hitting fighters, who just broke his eye, so he hit hard, was tagging him with one eye. He didn't take a knee. He didn't quit. He had a couple opportunities to say, oh, you know what? This is too much. I can't see. He didn't quit at all. So I want to give a major, 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 major shout out to Yordenis Ugas. Because like we always say, bro, you can't play boxing. And when you get confronted like that, and when you have that pain at your door, how do you respond? And he didn't win. He was trying his best. But after that, his eye socket got crushed, I knew the fight was over. Even before that, I had Errol Spence still up like 4-2. So it wasn't like, that was a turning point, but all his chances went out the window once that happened. So speaking of orbitals being shattered, bro, like don't you guys know this is the 3rd time that somebody got that orbital broke in Texas Stadium, in Cowboy Stadium? I mean, we had Pacquiao versus Margarito back in 2009, 2010. Margarito, deservingly so, especially if you believe he'd been cheating for a while. Margarito, he got his eye socket broke in that fight because he'd been cheating, against Cotto, we believe, allegedly. You know what I'm saying? He was and he got caught cheating against Shane Mosley. And so that happened in 2009, 2010. Pacquiao broke his eye socket. He was never the same, and Cotto got his revenge a couple years later, deservingly so. He really was zeroing in on that eye, because his eye, he barely got licensed in New York for that fight. And so Pacquiao did that to Margarito, like 2010 or whatever that was. And then last year, Canelo broke BJ Saunders' orbital bone in Cowboy Stadium. And BJ Saunders, no disrespect, and again, I don't know how I would react, so I'm not even saying that. But BJ Saunders, he had to quit once that happened. And I don't know, but from what they say, you're not quite the same once your orbital bone breaks. So, and then we got Ugas and you got Spence and Ugas. So this is the third time this happened in major fights in Cowboy Stadium. So I don't know if you're doing a fight in Cowboy Stadium, you want to make sure that you protect your eye because it got a history. And I don't know if the bright lights make your eyes get big or whatever, but it's a lot of history in Cowboy Stadium when it comes to broken out orbital bones. And also, of course, this is Errol Spence's second time breaking orbitals. You know what I'm saying? Like he broke Kell Brook orbital, the other eye after Triple G had broke it. And so Errol Spence, if you want any doubt, does Errol Spence hit hard? Please believe me, he hits hard. You know what I'm saying? There's no doubt about that. So where does Ugas go from here? Number one, like I said before, from what everybody says, it's not easy coming back from your orbital bone being broke because a lot of people never quite look the same. So I would suggest, if he's asking for suggestions, I would say, hey, bro, you probably want to take a break until 2023. You know what I'm saying? At least take a year off. And then to me, the best fight, you're not coming back to fight lower level guys if I'm Ugas after making the money for making millions of dollars in this fight. Only fight that would probably make sense from an age perspective, from them being both kind of similar in their careers, and from the name recognition and the money you can get, is the Keith Thurman fight. And then basically the winner of that has the ability to say, hey, once Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence get it settled, you know what I'm saying? Once they get settled, then, I can be the next in line, or if they vacate or whatever, I'm the guy who deserves to be in line for those championships. So that's what I would do if I was Ugas. I would take off to 2023 and then try to fight, if it makes sense, try to fight Keith Thurman. You know what I'm saying? But, shout out to Ugas, like I said before, heart of a warrior, didn't quit. That was amazing to me to see him. To see him not take a knee, not get knocked down, not quit. And that eye was getting worse and worse. I knew what it was as soon as I saw it, but shout out to Ugas. And then when it comes to Errol Spence, we all know the deal, bro. Like, comes to Errol Spence, we want to see one thing and one thing only. No stops in between. We want to see Terrence Crawford in the fall. We want to see that fight for all the marbles. They both got dogs in them. So hopefully we can get that fight in the fall. That's the only fight we want to see for Undisputed in welterweight. Only fight that makes sense. Only fight that's going to bring the money. And supposedly they both won it. But in boxing, I don't trust anything until it's signed on the dotted line. So let's get that done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. We want to see it. And I definitely plan on being there when that fight happens. So what we're going to do, y'all, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Coming back, we're going to recap the Fury versus Dillian Whyte fight. And, of course, we're going to talk about last night's fight where we had Oscar Valdez versus Shakur Stevenson. So be real quick, listen to the commercials, and we'll come back shortly. All right. What's up? It's that time of the show where we kind of give a shout out to our sponsors. The sponsor today is Anchor. Anchor is everything you need to create your own podcast. You can use Anchor to distribute your show. They'll kind of get it out for you. And all you have to do is do it from your cell phone or your microphone, however you want to do it. But if you want to get your voice out there, if you want to talk to the people, there's no better place to do it than Anchor. So download the app Anchor or go to their website, anchor.com. It'll distribute your podcast on all platforms. So again, Anchor. Yeah. So we back. You Can't Play Boxing, the second segment of the podcast. Like I mentioned before the break, we're gonna get into the Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte fight from last week. So number one, Tyson Fury, of course, had a great performance. He did everything I expected him to do. Tyson Fury, like I've been telling people, it was confirmed to me after that third Deontay Wilder fight. He definitely he the best heavyweight of this era. You feel me? Like, there's no doubt about that. I've seen enough to say that. You know, when Tyson Fury is focused, I doubt anyone in this era can beat him. You know, of course, it's heavyweight, so anything can happen, but nah. You know what I'm saying? But it was a great crowd also in Wembley Stadium. I think we had like 90,000 people in Wembley Stadium. Great atmosphere from what I've seen. And, you know, when it comes to the actual fight, bro, like Dillian Whyte did what I thought he would do. You know what I'm saying? He didn't win. I think I gave him one round maybe out of the first 6. And, you know, I can see him not getting any rounds. But Dillian Whyte, you know, he's a cool fighter, but if Tyson Fury is giving his best and Dillian Whyte is giving his best, there's a gap in talent. There's a gap in the skills and tools. So I didn't expect Dillian Whyte to win many rounds. And, you know, if you don't know, Tyson Fury did an uppercut, same uppercut that Dillian Whyte got knocked out with Povetkin 2 years ago, and same uppercut that Joshua knocked him down to before. So he's definitely susceptible to uppercuts. And Tyson Fury uppercut in the 6th round, got the knockout. And Dillian Whyte, true to form, he complained after the fight saying that I didn't lose. I wasn't knocked out. The punch, I got buzzed, but it was his push after the punch that caused me to hit my head and then it hit the canvas. And then I should have been able to get up and have it go on. And he shouldn't have been able to push me like that. Bro, you weren't winning any rounds even before the push. You know what I'm saying? You weren't winning any rounds before the push. And I doubt you was going to win any rounds after the knockdown. So you can say what you want to say. And I think, like I said, Dillian Whyte he's a cool like fighter to, you know, he's a cool top 10 guy, you know what I'm saying? So that, I mean, to even get to the top 10, you got to have a certain set of skills. But Tyson Fury is not a top 10 guy. He's a future Hall of Famer. You know, just basically putting it out there. If you're a future Hall of Famer, so, and one of the best today. So there's a gap in levels, you know what I'm saying? And so, where does Tyson Fury rank at this point? Where do y'all have him? I already stated, I mean, based on the fights that I've seen, he's the best heavyweight of this era. I mean, he has, if you want to look at resumes, I mean, he got 3 wins against potential Hall of Famers. I mean, he beat Deontay Wilder twice, and he beat Vladimir Klitschko, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. So those are 2 Hall of Famers that he has 3 wins if you look at all 4 fights. And some people say he won the first Deontay Wilder fight. I didn't have it that way. I had it a draw. But even looking at that, you know, even Deontay Wilder, like, he was dropped 4 times. Like, Tyson Fury was dropped 4 times and got up all 4 times against Deontay Wilder. That's a feat in itself. And then if you look at Tyson Fury's, like, his attributes, you know what I mean? Like, he's 6'9", like 270 pounds. Like, you know, he moves awkward, you know what I'm saying? Like, he got crazy different footwork, you know what I mean? And his IQ, his ring IQ, he's smart. I mean, when he got knocked down by Deontay Wilder, the majority of them knockdowns, and even before that, he doesn't rush to get back up. He takes his time, and then he collects himself. It takes a certain sort of ring IQ to do that, and also to be able to know when to use your distance, know how to use your weight. He's a very smart fighter. And I mean, his chin, I mean, he's been knocked down, but he hadn't been knocked out. You know what I'm saying? So that resiliency, bro, like, it takes a special type of person that can beat Tyson Fury. So I'm saying this, and I'm standing on record. Like, in my mind, Tyson Fury would be a hard fight for any heavyweight in history. If Tyson Fury's on his A game, there's no way that would be an easy fight for any heavyweight. Now, would Tyson Fury beat every heavyweight? No, I don't think he would beat every heavyweight in the past. But I think there's a lot of them, a lot of the greats he would beat. Like, me personally, I don't think, I mean, and of course, you know, we don't never know this, but styles and looking at the size, like Mike Tyson, that's a hard fight for Mike Tyson. I think Tyson Fury wins that fight. Easy. Not easy, but he wins that fight. I think Joe Frazier, I think that's a hard fight, but I think Tyson Fury wins that fight too. Now, you got some styles I think are just hard for him. I think a Lennox Lewis would be a hard fight for him. I think Riddick Bowe would be a hard fight for him. I don't know who wins it. I could see either one of them winning. I could see Muhammad Ali being a hard fight, but I can see it's crazy. Like, so I think there's no heavyweight in history that Tyson Fury would be an easy fight for him just due to all his attributes that he has. You know what I'm saying? Not saying he would beat him. I think some of them would beat Tyson Fury. Don't get me wrong, because they're greats for a reason. But he would be a hard fight for him. So, I mean, when it comes to it, like, what's next for Tyson Fury? He says he's going to retire. I believe it when I see it. Tyson Fury's 33 years old? Now, I don't think he's going to be fighting at 40 years old, but he's talking about fighting Ngannou from UFC, the heavyweight champion, in an exhibition. That's a possibility. I mean, because the money would be there. And but me personally, bro, like, I think when it comes down to it, that undisputed heavyweight championship fight, once it's settled this summer, if it gets settled this summer, between Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua, the rematch, that undisputed fight is going to make the most money and the most sense for legacy. And, you know, Tyson Fury says it doesn't matter to him, and he may prove me wrong. I just think that we will see that fight eventually. I'm not saying we'll see it this year, but I think there's a good possibility we can see that fight. So shout out to Tyson Fury, won the fight. Great performance, and, you know, one of the best heavyweights of all time. You know, I'm not going to rank him, but he's definitely, as far as 21st century, I mean, he's top 3 21st century heavyweight for sure. So what we going to do next, we're going to dive right into the fight we had last night, which was Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez. So going into the fight, Shakur was definitely he was the favorite for me. I thought Oscar might win 4 rounds at most, you know what I'm saying? But if you don't know, Shakur Stevenson, he won unanimous decision. I had the fight 10 rounds to 2. I had it 118 to 109 because there was a knockdown in, what was that, the 4th round or 5th round? Maybe 6th. But anyway, there's a knockdown. And so I thought Oscar was going to probably win. Was going to win 4 rounds max, but Shakur kept him under that. The key to me was okay, if you Oscar Valdez, okay, you're not going to be able to beat Shakur Stevenson fighting on the outside. So, and Shakur kept him at bay with that, keeping his hands out there, basically keeping that range, keeping him out there, because if you touching him, just keeping your hands on his head, and he not doing nothing, when he's moving, he can't do nothing to you. He can't. His best bet is to work on the inside. And so if Shakur is beating him, if Shakur is keeping that range in place with the hand speed and with his ability to move, that's a recipe for disaster. And so me personally, I was telling people, like, if he has any sort of chance in this fight, he needs to keep it dirty, because keeping it clean is not going to work for him. Like, I would have probably suggested, hey, step on his foot, hit him low, hit him behind the head. Now, these are all veteran tricks that he should have used. To me, he should have used, because Shakur, for all the talent, I mean, even a couple times where Shakur was keeping his hands on Oscar's head, and Oscar pulled it one time, Shakur was like, hey, man, what's going on? And when Oscar like hit Shakur low one time, Shakur definitely reacted where he didn't like it. And so you need to own that. Like, you need to like play that role, like make it frustrating for him the whole time. Don't make it clean for him, because make it clean, you're not going to win that fight. And Oscar didn't do that. And Shakur's jab and power is definitely underrated. He kept Oscar at bay. He was tagging him. Oscar at some point looked like Clifford the Big Red Dog, with his face all marked up and red in the face. And one thing for sure too, like, Shakur's defense is like top tier. Like, he has subtle movements where when people are swinging at him or are taking shots at him, he'll keep that movement, just move a little bit back, just move his body a little bit. Sometimes his feet's not even moving. He's just leaning back for a second. He's basically absorbing a punch, or he's not taking on a full thrust of that punch. He's rolling that punch a lot of times. So his defense is definitely underrated, and he's only 24 years old, and he has that ability right now. So, bro, I told people, like, I ain't gonna say he a Hall of Famer, nah, because you gotta do a lot. It's a lot more steps to get there. You know what I'm saying? But he has Hall of Fame talent. You know what I'm saying? But just because you got Hall of Fame talent don't mean you gonna be a Hall of Famer. Because because there's a lot more things going in boxing. Like, you got the outside the ring drama that you got to keep at bay. You got the business drama that you got to keep at bay. You got the drama in the rings, the politics, and sometimes people can't navigate all that. And so I mean, you look at Shakur. He's a 2-division champion. One at 120, had a title at 126, had a title unified at 130 right now. He says that he's going to try to be undisputed. He's going to go for undisputed. I favor Shakur fighting any of the other guys at 130 pounds. I think he's just a level above. Again, he has Hall of Fame talent. And anything can happen in boxing, but his talent is Hall of Fame worthy. And the guys in the division don't have the same talent that he has. To me, lightweight is where the money and the competition, you know what I'm saying, is going to test Shakur. I mean, the lightweight, even on the top ranked side, you got Lomachenko. Even though he lost twice, his footwork and his ability is top notch. That's going to be a hard fight if Shakur fought him at this stage. Devin, once him and Kambosos, both of them guys, once they kind of get settled, because they basically locked in for the next 6 months to a year. You know what I'm saying? So once that's settled, I think Kambosos, of course, I think it's the easier fight. He'll have a name no matter what happens. But Devin, of course, is another fight, that's going to that would test Shakur. And would offer a lot of money, you know what I'm saying, if that were to happen. And they're all affiliated with Top Rank right now. So Top Rank has they have a big stable of lightweights they can kind of throw at them right now. And then, of course, you're talking outside the Top Rank stable right now. You got other money fights with Tank, if they ever fought, you know what I'm saying, and Ryan Garcia. Those are also big money fights that, once the money makes sense and one of them are standing, or Shakur cleans up all the in-house stuff, if he does, those are fights that make sense too. So lots of interesting things happen in lightweight. I enjoy Shakur's performance, but there's a lot that there's a lot of addition, and he's young. He's 24 years old, so I think we're only looking at potentially the tip of the iceberg as far as what he's going to accomplish. So shout out to Shakur Stevenson. Shout out to the whole Brick City, New Jersey. And yeah, we're going to wrap up this episode. Like I said, I appreciate everybody for listening. You know, as I mentioned before, a couple things. Number one, go to anywhere you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Just subscribe and rate the podcast. Appreciate that. Number two, go to our YouTube. You Can't Play Boxing. Subscribe to that. You can catch all the old episodes. Also, check out all the old episodes on YouCan'tPlayBoxingPodcast.com. It has all the old episodes there. And finally, you can go to our Instagram at You Can't Play Boxing. That's UCANTPLAYBOXING. So again, this is your boy Timmy B. I appreciate everybody for listening. Until next time, y'all. Peace.